Right, time for today's Focus Report, and with less than 2 weeks to go until the first round of France's presidential elections, we take a closer look at the state of the country's education system. Counterproductive reforms, crowded classrooms, a lack of discipline and falling literacy rates. These are all hot-button issues stirring debate among those teaching in public schools. As Karim Hakiki and Luc Schrago report, the system needs a drastic overhaul and fast if it's to escape the downward spiral.
Dans l'État d'Arizona, mon père est ingénieur en électronique, ma mère est pianiste. Nous vivons à 6 dans une grande maison et sommes tous...
Sandrine's pupils are fortunate to have a teacher who's always felt a calling towards education. Unlike many of her colleagues, she chose to work here in an underprivileged part of Paris to help school children learn.
La table de Mohamed Amin sur l'exercice 2.
After starting in the small provincial town of Dreux, she's been here for 2 years. Like in many such districts, more than half the pupils can't even handle basic literacy or numeracy. To help those worse off, classes are smaller than the national average. Sandrine has 21 kids to handle, against the 30 she might have had elsewhere.
Je vois que les élèves, au niveau lecture...
You can see that these pupils have a hard time reading out loud.
Ce sont des élèves qui ne lisent pas forcément beaucoup à la maison.
These are children who don't read books at home. They were never taught the value of books. So it's difficult, but I think we should be investing even more time in these pupils before they reach junior high school. That's when the gap becomes very hard to fill up.
These pupils are in the final year of primary school, and yet none of them can read that well. Despite 10 years of seniority, Sandrine feels a sense of loss. For her, the hardest part is a lack of different social backgrounds. Economic hardship abounds for these kids, and the French Ministry of National Education has never offered any special training to educate those who otherwise fall between the cracks of the system.
Tu t'assois. Parce que vous n'avez toujours pas commencé.
We have turbulent pupils, yet we teachers sometimes lack ascendance. If we had some help regarding this, it'll be a good thing. Same goes with involving families. Often we're talking about families of recent immigrant background. There are options to be explored. I hope we can improve. That would be great.
By the time primary school has finished, 40% of the children from establishments like this still won't be able to handle the basics. Given the magnitude of the task, many teachers on the ground feel completely overwhelmed and utterly demotivated. Behind them, teachers' unions, which have been criticizing inefficient government policies on both the right and the left wings of politics for the last 30 years.
France's public school system is permanently under construction. We should be wearing hard hats. So this constant refurbishing means we're always implementing different policies. We get used to one method and then 2 or 3 years later it changes again. And because we're constantly scrambling to keep up, we teachers do not feel respected.
For the left-wing union, the most alarming move was shutting down the UFM teaching college in 2010.
Right now, the ministry is trying to reform teacher training, but it's lacking, it's incomplete, and it's not very effective. Another problem is that France's best pupils no longer want to become teachers themselves, because being a teacher in this country means a low salary, being constantly criticized, and being forced to change methods every 3 or 4 years, depending on the government's latest whim.
The National Council for Evaluating the School System decided to ask the current crop of French presidential candidates a few questions. Comprised of MPs from both the right and left wing, its job is to pass judgment over governmental education policies. It has 200 researchers at its beck and call to come up with 30 recommendations. Its president sees the council as an educational advance warning system.
It's very important that education policies be coherent and have some kind of continuity. Education must be freed of ideological debate. It's being held hostage by it all. Left-leaning policies, right-leaning policies, what should really prevail are scientific results.
According to UNESCO, the French education system is only serving to worsen inequalities rather than reduce them. It's the main reason for its recommendation to better monitor pupils all the way through primary school.
Measures must be taken to allow teachers to better assist pupils who are struggling in a more personalised way. In France, we have children repeat a school year. We let them get to the point where they really are struggling. But the pupils who do rebound are those who immediately receive backup.
The school system gets a lion's share of the French state budget, with some 69 billion euros. However, it seems far from being a priority in this electoral cycle. Not one of the candidates has used any of CNESCO's recommendations in any of their campaign platforms.